Live. All right. Good evening, guys. We are, as always, skip on ahead if you're watching this afterwards. We're going to talk about a little bit of an update on legal issues, where things stand. I know it's been a little quiet since the big presentations, where stuff stands with that, and then talk a little bit about the budget issues and something interesting that happened last Tuesday. So if that's something that might be interesting to you, then skip on ahead. Otherwise, we're going to hang out for a second and let folks jump on. I see a few people. Good evening. Good evening. Give me a thumbs up that you can hear me, that I'm not too loud or too quiet. Christie, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I hope everybody's doing great tonight. Thanks for joining us. 7 o'clock on Monday seems to be a good time.
Hey, man.
It seems to be our Facebook Live time. That's good. We hadn't been on it for a while, though, so it's nice to greet everybody and say hi.
All right. Christy King,
Hey,
loud
Christy.
and clear.
Great.
All right. Reba.
Hey, Reba. Oh, I haven't seen Reba in like 2 weeks. I miss her. I don't know what to do without seeing Reba every week.
Yeah, we may have to just do a Reba show.
We do need to have a Reba show.
So we're gonna give it just a few minutes, guys. Hit that share button, and maybe tag a friend or somebody that might not know, that might be interested. We are going to talk some about a little bit of the legal update, where things stand with the airport authority. Has been kind of quiet. I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of it has to do with getting into football season, going to various kid events, all that kind of stuff. Life's been fairly busy. The other thing is we've been kind of taking some time and investing in figuring out the next steps for Advanced Etowah and things that are going. And you guys, I mean, there's been a lot of great conversation about some of the stuff that has happened, like trying to suspend the rules for a budget last week. So we're going to talk some about that. If you've got specific questions, drop them in the comments. I'm going to try and go through and see what I can find. We've got just a little bit that we can that we're going to talk about, but the reality is, if you don't have a ton of questions, then this will be a fairly quick discussion. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if we can ever have a quick discussion at all these days.
So much to talk about. So a lot has happened, and it feels like it's been, months, but really August the 27th was the last Airport Authority public meeting, which was such a great event, and that hasn't been too long ago, but it feels like a lifetime ago as well, too. It's exciting to see everybody on the Facebook page as some of these new events with the city and other come up that you kind of already see what's going on and have caught that and are asking the right questions and are really engaged. So it's exciting to see everybody so involved, both on the rendering plant fight, but also just to fight to make our home a better place, because it's our home and we love it.
Well, so while folks are still jumping on, I'm going to give you a little bit of, I guess, admin of some of the stuff I've done with the website. So if you go on to the advancedetowah.com, there's a resource tab on there. If you go to that web page, if you scroll down, it should be the first thing at the top. It'll take you to a directory, Etowah directory, and that's an app that I built out that we're going to get some information. Actually, Reba helped me get a bunch of stuff put in there months ago. That is who's currently in office in various offices, various appointments around Etowah County. I've got that set up now with an election 2022 side of that, and as we get the information, folks that announce, we're going to try and get all their info and get it plugged in there so you can look at everybody that's running for office all in one place. It's a searchable database, not super fancy, but hopefully it gets the job done. The other thing is there's a document download in there that it's only got a few things right now, but I think it'll be a good place to put more stuff. I got uploaded the proposed 2022 budget for the City of Gadsden, which I know has been posted elsewhere on the internet, and that should be read tomorrow. And then I've got the ARP budget that was read last week. That's uploaded. There's a few other documents, and I'll slowly get stuff up there or figure out a little bit more what we want to get on there and get some help to get it all set up.
That ARP is the $24 million one pager. So that's the COVID money that the city received.
But I know there's been a lot of folks that have talked about how we need to get all the info of who's running and all that kind of stuff. And I've mentioned that I'm building out a repository for all that info, and that is so I'm hoping to get links to web pages, Facebook, bios if they'll submit them. All that kind of stuff, and I'll be getting more info out for those that do announce and are looking for a place to share their info about what they believe. And then, not to steal too much thunder, but the issues as we kind of identify them, as we talk about them as a community, then my goal will be to kind of capture those issues and then be able to link or do a write-up for each of the candidates, link to videos and stuff like that relate to those issues, so everybody can make it a little easier to find what they're talking about, as regards to things that are important to us. I think Lance Corey did a good job of mentioning that we need to probably kind of figure out what we want and ask our candidates and the folks that we're going to elect to talk about the things that matter to us, not just come out and say, I'm all for fiscal responsibility. Well, that's great. That doesn't really mean anything. Let's talk about how that applies to Etowah County or the office that you want to hold. That kind of stuff.
And I think it's going to be helpful as these candidates move forward as well for them to have an understanding from a community point of view in advance. Etowah is coming in and doing a lot of that about what issues they should care about, that the community cares about. And so not only it's a great platform for them to come on and talk about what they stand for and what they want to do, but have an understanding of and I think that's where the disconnect with the community. We may have these leaders that get up there and say, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and some with more detail than others. But, there's a disconnect between what the people want, what the vision the people have for our county. And so having that platform where there's a communication both ways, I think that's really been a missing component here. So I'm excited to see that being a part of the discussion as we move into the next year.
Absolutely.
Year.
All right, so let's jump into an update on where things stand. I don't know if you've got a game plan in your head of things you want to share. I know you just kind of rushed in from Boaz and doing some work up there. Appreciate, as always, your time to sit down with us in these wee hours of a Monday night. But have you got an idea of what you want to run through, or
yeah, sure. I'll just
where
sort
you
of
want to
start, and then anybody, if there's a lot of questions I've seen, so I try to respond to those when I can. But you can certainly drop those in. As just to go back a couple weeks, I just cannot express from a presentation point of view how amazing and proud and what a great moment I thought that both the presentations on August 20th were, and then the public comments that happened the week after. I'll go back into that a little bit, just how unbelievable that was. As great as that was to see the community do that, and that I'm still very concerned on whether or not, though those were refreshing to have public meetings in that way, that the Airport Authority would have that, I am still not completely convinced that those decisions are being made in an appropriate and fair way. So I as much as I want to laud how great days those were, I think that the process is still not at a place where I feel, even as overwhelming as those days were, that the process is going to be followed out in the way that it's meant to be. I hope it will. Will remain to be seen, but the Airport Authority attorney has said it will be several weeks before the airport authority will have their consultants, which you saw on the stage. There was Younger Associates, was the financial consultant, is what she's being called. And then Neil Schaefer is the airport consultant engineer. They were also up there, and that they're waiting for reports from both of those consultants to the airport authority, for the airport authority to consider those as part of whatever decision they're going to make. They've requested additional information after the presentation, and the Etowah Community Group worked really hard to get that information to them. And
not everybody was present on the 27th in terms of the consultants, and the whole board wasn't there either. Correct? Right.
I believe Jonathan Welch was not there from the airport authority. The Younger Associates consultant, Ms. Sweet, was not there. But I asked the airport authority attorney after that, and he told me she watched it live. So, one would hope that she would see that, because I asked him specifically what role the public comments would take if a financial consultant and an airport consultant were what the recommendations of the airport authority were going to take. Then, obviously, what role does the public comment have?
Right.
That should take an extremely important role. I didn't want them just listening to those guys, but they explained that was going to be part of it, and that the consultants were going to provide a report to the airport authority, who would then vote and ultimately decide.
And I think through all of this, I'd say Congressman Adderholt probably put the value of those public comments in the best light, even before we had that public comment section. But, in what he said to the FAA in his letter, basically saying this is clearly a project that is not supported by the community and the people, and that should be heavily weighed on which way things go, and it doesn't make any sense to push any project that has this, not just this little support from the community, but actually overwhelming opposition. So I thought the congressman said that well, and hopefully that those words are heard with the board and the decision makers.
I certainly hope so. And part of one of the questions I asked to the airport authority attorney is, and I still don't feel like I have gotten the answer that is a complete answer. What role exactly are these consultants taking? So I've made
as Danny Starnes asked, who's paying the consultants?
I've asked for a copy of the contracts in order to have a better understanding of the relationship between the airport authority in that way. I am on week number 2. Having not received those. I've asked for them verbally, I've asked for them in writing twice, and I followed up again today asking where those are. I don't have those yet. That is a concern, and I think that having a clear understanding of what their engagement is important. This is a big decision the airport authority is going to make, and if these consultants are sitting on the stage with them, and they're such a important part, then in what way we need to understand that. So
I personally, I want to see a contract, and I want to know that they are paid by the airport authority or the City of Gadsden, one of those two entities, and that they are in no way, we need to know that. Are they paid by Pilgrim's Pride on the back end in some way? I don't know without any transparency. That makes me very uncomfortable.
And, it may be very well everything is exactly appropriate, just the way it needs to be. But with the history we have here and the lack of transparency that continues, it is not unreasonable to ask these questions. And so the hope is that you get an answer and that you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That is fine. It's not that we want to not agree. It's just we need to understand what's going on. And it's been so much in the dark that I think that erring on the side of transparency is what needs to happen. So I still, I'm cautiously concerned about the airport authority still. And so we don't know when that decision is going to make. Everything in court is somewhat delayed because if the airport authority does not choose Pilgrim's Pride and should choose Etowah Community or not to sell the land at all, then there's really some issues about where the case would be if that is the decision that is made. So some of the case is reliant on that. And then also after the Airport Authority, maybe it was the same week as the 27th, the City Council voted 5-1, 4-2, not sure how it all ended up,
right,
with the resolution to oppose the location of the rendering plant at the airport and incentives. So, we've got that. And it's interesting to note we had a scheduling conference last week in the court case, just to sort of see where we were on the trial dates and stuff. And the judge brought up a really good point to the city attorney at the hearing last week and said, in light of the council's vote, the City of Gadsden is currently postured as a defendant in the case. There are the plaintiffs in the case, which is our group, right? And so if the city has voted to oppose the rendering plant at the airport, the judge asked, is the city going to file a motion to realign itself with the plaintiffs?
Right.
And so the city attorney didn't have an answer for that, but that is a great question.
And which city attorney are we talking about?
Brad Cornett is
Brad
who
Cornett.
they asked the question. Lee was not there. So that is a great question, that if, you've got the majority of the council opposing it, then why are they not joining us as plaintiffs in this,
right.
in this case? Great question. So,
and what's also interesting is they're now, in this year, they're now co-sponsors of the airport as well, right? So, which we're still trying to figure out exactly what that relationship is, where it stands today, or
so. You're making me go down a rabbit trail, Michael.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't want to go too far down. Just trying to hash out some of the how odd all of this stuff is.
Great question, though, and I will go down that. I'll take the bait on that one because that's a great question. I am having also repeated requests for information from the FAA. Or I am asking them about the co-sponsorship agreement, what the status is of that. Where are we on that? Why are the 7460s that Pilgrims has filed, why is Pilgrims saying that the FAA has agreed to consider them when before the FAA said until the Airport Authority agrees, we're not going to consider? These are the kind of questions that I am asking over and over to the FAA, and they are not responding. And I know Lance has been emailing them as well too, and I think they've responded some to him. I have now begun copying Adderholt's office at this point, since we're not getting a response. And so I'm not saying anything's necessarily wrong.
Right.
It's just there's a lack of information. And so I think that's, I don't know the status of the co-sponsorship agreement. Has it been approved? Has it not been approved? Last time the FAA had said, no, it's not. And so, look, the FAA, in my conversations, I will say with them, the last one I had is not excited about this rendering plant. Now they're not going to sit there and say, it's not going to come, but they're really not excited about dealing with it. So.
And again, obviously they do have kind of a unique ability to weigh in the federal nature of the land acquisition, how the airport came to be, and I know they have some control in terms of the actual land use. But the FAA's job really, and I kind of, I guess, I lean in support of this. I don't want the FAA telling us as a community what we can do in terms of development of the airport. Obviously, I want them to make sure we're in compliance with all the federal aviation regulations and that we're building a safe environment. That's why they have things like advisory circulars on wildlife hazards and all that kind of stuff. And I've said it the whole time. We really should not rely on the FAA to decide what we do and don't do with the airport. We should rely on them to make sure that the things we want to do do not conflict with the use of the airfield and cause limitations or anything like that. So I don't know. I probably I give a little grace to federal organization because I know they're slow, and especially now that this has gone all the way up to the administrator's office. The they're probably even slower in terms
if,
of some of those.
If part of the strategy is they're just like, look, let's put it at the bottom of the stack. Hey, I'm fine with that. Yeah. I am not complaining. And so it may be that is what they're doing. Maybe they're doing the same thing to pilgrims. Hey, I just don't know. And so those are the questions that I'm asking because I don't want to be surprised. And so if I get any more information from the FAA, hey, no news can be good news. I hope that is the case. So we took a little detour down the FAA world.
Okay.
We talked about the city council resolution, the judge asking the city attorney about realignment. We did have a status conference last week. We've got the final hearing scheduled for October 12th through the 15th right now. That's a 3.5-day hearing. We've got it scheduled for. That we are ready, willing, and able to try this case. We're excited about the case that we have. It necessarily is controlled in good bit about the FAA. I mean, the Airport Authority, when they make their decision, there could be things that cause further delay on this. We hope not. That the judge is doing everything he can to try to work with everybody to fit about 6 months worth of work into the next 30 days in order to get all of this done. So we're trying to work as hard as we can to get it ready. Right now it's scheduled for that date and hopefully it will go that day. I will keep everybody updated. If events, as you know, rendering plant changes just about every week at this point. There's always something new, but guys, it may ultimately be that that whether it's the rendering plant or just solving the problem that brought the rendering plant to us, elections are kind of the bottom line, and that's a year from now that will really be the end date. I mean, that is almost like, even if we win in court, we're still, we're still dealing with the same leadership that got us here. And we all know that Pilgrim's Pride is looking at other locations inside Etowah County, outside of Etowah County. And, as long as we, until we have leaders in place that ensure that their vision for the county and our vision for the county are the same, we just have to keep fighting the fight.
All right. Let's see. David Stanley said, any chance the FAA is giving us till next elections so we can replace everybody that's supported?
I hope so. I mean, that's fine. They just
yeah. I doubt the FAA is.
That'd be fine with me.
Yeah. That's yeah. I mean,
the short answer is I don't know. They are. And it's concerning, that, and I've pointed this out to the Airport Authority attorney and to the FAA both, that these same consultants the Airport Authority is using now that you saw up on the stage sitting up there during the presentations in August were the same that were working and recruiting very hard to get Pilgrim's Pride here behind closed doors last summer and last fall when nobody knew anything about it. So the idea that the hope is that they are unbiased consultants that are truly trying to, that would be great, but we're not, so naive to believe that the same group that was fighting to bring them here, working with the same group of people, we have no, predisposition to some way. I hope not. But these are the kind of questions that we're asking, we're watching out for. And, if the Airport Authority decides, after all that it saw in August, after all that was presented and that this group has done, that Pilgrim's Pride and a rendering plant or airport is a better option, something's wrong. Something stinks.
Yes.
So
not just the rendering plant.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's it's a mind-boggling thing. I don't know if I've become numb to the boggling of my mind. Or whatever the verb is for mind-boggling. Anywho's,
I think we go in like phases. I don't know if this we'll be like, yeah, and then we'll just be like, really? Like, I can't believe we're still here. And then we'll sort of get to where we've accepted it, and then we'll just wake up one day and go, like, how is this not over? So y'all are probably the same way, sharing our experience of disbelief at times that this is still a fight that we're having.
The anger just builds and builds and builds. Frustration. All those feels.
But you've got to acknowledge, I think we do, in the last, 10 months, it has been a slow and steady pace of knocking down and getting those parties that maybe were neutral or that were on the other side, slowly knocking one down after another. We got the city council voted a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's non-binding and it was all a big kind of a crazy show, but that was
we can't even get votes right.
It was good. And it was good.
Yes.
I'll declare it good. And it's a step forward. Though it's painfully slow, though you look back, you've got the city, you've got Adderholt, you've got the court, you've got, all these parts slowly getting what we're trying to, and so I'm hopeful that though it might not be as fast as we would all like, we'll eventually get there and then can put the whole thing to rest with elections.
I mean, the rate we're going, we may be up to the UN by the time we're trying to get this done. They are an international company, remember?
Yeah,
so
if flying to the UN would fix the problem, we do it. We would totally do it, whatever it takes. So.
All right. Pam, I see you got a question. Yeah, we are going to get to the Gadsden City budget.
Yes, we are.
Sorry, I think we've got most of the legal update done. So, the short version is it continues. There's still a ton of work going on, and I want to make sure that everybody understands, Christie's not going to come on here and give you every single detail of every plan that she's got, and the rest of the legal team has. There's a lot of strategy, and there's a lot of stuff going on, as some of you, I'm sure, are far more aware than I ever have been about how these things go, and some of you may have no clue, like me, but there's definitely a lot of strategy. What do we know that they know that we know that they think they know that we know, and then when can we, all that kind of stuff, that gamesmanship, and fortunately we are blessed to have some really, really smart folks that are going toe to toe with these guys, and I mean, so far I'd say we've been kicking some butt, so much so that we got the judge coming and going, well, I assume now we're going to see the city switch sides, and I wish we could live stream that stuff. I'd love to see these discussions. So. But yeah, I just want y'all to know that there's a lot of stuff going on with all that. Not all of it is going to be here. I fully intend, and I've been talking a lot with Christie, when it's appropriate, most likely when all of this is done, we'll get the transcripts of all the stuff that has happened in court, and all of that will get pushed out for public consumption, and you can read what people have said and all that kind of stuff. It's just not something we really want to do piecemeal along the way, and we certainly don't want to do anything that wouldn't be appropriate in just the way you conduct yourself for court hearings like this. Right. So, all right. Can anything be done about the GAA not addressing the 2 failed inspections, bringing the airport up to date?
So those were the DOT inspections, the last 2. Who's asking the question? I can't see.
That's Lisa Regan.
Okay, Lisa. I wonder.
Reagan.
Well, I wondered. I couldn't see because Lance and I have talked a pretty good bit about those, and so I've sent those to Congressman Adderholt, and I've noted to him that that there are some failed DOT inspections. He really can't do much on a federal level for that type of thing, but obviously if the FAA is spending funds in order to do improvements in construction at the airport, and there's 2 failed DOT, those are just items of information that are helpful things to have, so, but what's happening, and if anybody that went to one of the last airport meetings where the consultant talked about these, they just make it sound like, oh, it's no big deal. We have a year to fix it. It's not, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And so, I'm afraid that until we get an airport authority that understands some of this stuff better, and that the consultant can't just act like it's no big deal when you've failed your last two. And I just think that's going to take a systemic change where the structure of the airport authority is changed. And that's just part of what Advanced Etowah is going to have to work on, that when elections happen, we clean that type of thing up.
So speaking of systems and processes and systemic issues, let's talk about budget. So if you guys hadn't caught the city council meeting last Tuesday, can you explain what happened there with the president and the suspension of the rules and all of that kind of stuff?
Sure. So they were supposed to, our understanding was they were supposed to introduce the $24 million ARP budget last week, and it was going to be introduced last week, and then it was going to be voted on the following week. Which is
the way it's supposed to occur.
That's how, and unless you do something unusual called suspend the rules. And when you suspend the rules, it takes unanimous consent of all members to consider it and vote on it that day, because the typical procedure is it's introduced one week and then it's voted on the following week. And the reason that is done is so that there's an opportunity between introduction and adoption for the public to look at it. That's the reason that period is put in place there. And so when you suspend the rules and adopt it immediately, that's an extraordinary. It's only supposed to be used for extraordinary things where it's an emergency, you need it now. It's not supposed to be just routinely done, especially when you're talking about $24 million of federal money. It's if it was some little rinky-dink type of, it's still not a good idea, but it's certainly for $24 million. So what happened was, rather than just it being introduced, Councilwoman Knowles suggested that they suspend the rules and not only introduce that budget, but pass it on that day. And I think that Councilman Wilson did not expect that. I think he expected.
If you watch the video, you can see the look in his face, and you can certainly hear it in his voice, as he addressed Madam President.
I think his understanding was that this was going to follow the normal procedure, and when she brought it up, he seemed surprised. He seemed displeased. We were all surprised and displeased. And so there was some sort of conversation where he raised it. Jason did it in his firm but nice way. And they got some pushback from, I think, Councilman Reed, Councilman Williams, and Councilwoman Knowles. I think that was it. I think all three of them just sort of had various excuses and reasons.
Well, I don't think I remember Ms. Knowles actually giving a reason as to why she wanted to suspend the rules.
Just wanted to do it.
Everyone else kind of chimed in with some ideas. Fairly clearly, it seemed they wanted to paint this idea that we got to pass it, or else the first responders aren't going to get paid. But I do, I hope everybody understands, like, the reply that when Jason asked why are we suspending the rules, and he got a response back of, well, what's your reason not to suspend the rules? Great answer, because the rules are in place for a reason. That's 100% true, and for those of us, and that suspension of rules, that's a thing that has happened perpetually through the history of
and he's
of
brought
the
it
council.
up. Jason has brought it up, and we've been watching the past 10 months over and over again. We don't need to do that. Do we have, every time they bring it up, he goes, do we have to do that? So it's not like it was some surprise that that we're concerned, that he's concerned. It's been something that people have expressed, because the process, if you go back, one of the fundamental concerns about this rendering plant is that what they seem to intend to do, because this is how industrial development projects had been approved before, is they bring it up, they consider it, they introduce it for the first day, at the first time, they suspend the rules and they vote it in before the public knows anything about it. That's how it first came to the attention of everybody from this rendering plan, that seemed to be how they had done it in the past. And the fear was that was what they had intended to do here. And so when you see them continue to do that, and not just for little, but for $24 million of funds, and you see, which I can't decide whether they seem to truly not either care or get what the concern is, because it just keeps coming up, and they act like, well, that's how we've always done it. I think is the sense I get that from, and the inability to sort of learn and to sort of move with what the people are saying. That might have been how you've done it in the past, but we're not comfortable with that right now.
Right.
There just seems to be a lack of acknowledgement of that, which makes me concerned for the budget that's coming up this week.
Well, first, and before I think there's a little bit more to talk through on that. And I see one comment about what are they trying to hide by suspending the rules? I'm going to honestly, my opinion, and this is just Michael Wildman's opinion on what I've seen through these past 10 months. I don't think that she did it because she's trying to hide anything in this budget. I think she's doing it because she just doesn't know better. I think that's just the way they've done business for so long, and they don't really care what people think. Now, again, I could be wrong. Certainly plenty of accusations fly. And anybody that doesn't expect accusations to fly with stuff like that occurring in 2021 America is fooling themselves and probably should not be involved in politics. But I honestly, I think it's just a lack of understanding of, the whole concept that, well, we suspend the rules for an emergency. So therefore, if we don't have an emergency, and passing a budget should never, ever, ever be an emergency.
Well, keep in mind too, there seems to be this sort of the forum of the council and the city in general. We learn very early in the whole rendering plant process is not designed for public input. In fact, they discourage it, and they don't want there's not a forum to really come and speak. There's not a forum to come and protest. There's not a forum in which to even, question in a week's worth of time obviously one of the reasons you do that and suspend the rules is so you don't have people reading it and asking questions and involved in the process. You do it in a way that discourages the public, and they've done it for so long, and it's worked. I mean, you see a successful. They've succeeded with council meetings at the worst time of the day in the week, which doesn't encourage people to come, on Tuesdays at 11. You see that the forum is not conducive to engage with the people. You see that the agenda, if you look at the agenda online, it barely even tells you what's going on. And then you suspend rules so that you adopt it the same day. There's absolutely... And I believe it's designed that way in order to discourage, and it has been for a long time, and it's worked. And so we have a disconnected population with the leaders, and it's been intentionally designed that way. Maybe it's for convenience. Maybe it's not because there's some desire to do anything near do well in some way, but it's just a lack of desire to engage in that, and it's convenient. And so it's lazy. And so I think that we've gone so far down this road, it's almost as if, our leaders are like, well, why are you upset with this now? We've been doing this forever. We're just going to keep doing it the way we want to. And that's where we find ourselves.
And Pam Dawson said that, suspending the rules is not necessarily unusual, but it is unusual for something so important.
That's right.
So the other piece in all of that, there's two that stick out in my mind. Number one, the rules of spending and executing this money is not an emergency. This is not something that we have to and it can be approved in part based on, and actually Pam, thank you for sharing the way your guys over in South Carolina in the Myrtle Beach area and had some great discussion. I enjoyed. I actually went back and I never thought I'd ever be in a position where I'd be like, oh, I enjoyed watching some other city council meeting in some other county that I'm not living in, but it was good to see the way the format, the debate, the discussions, the inquisition from some of their city council members, and they're getting feedback. Hey, can we go back and check at this and check it? Well, can we pass part of that? That's like, we don't have to do all this $24 million like that. It doesn't have to be done. The other piece of that is that this is not even a full page to me that covers $24 million and a breakdown. Like, my personal budget for my house is more than one page. I don't understand how we can break down the expenditures of $24 million on a half a sheet of paper. That just sits really wrong with me. Maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm doing way too much on my personal budget. Maybe I need to narrow that down to about 4 lines or something. I don't know.
Well, it begs the question then, either it's an inadequate budget or it's not the whole document, right?
Right.
And so either way, it's one of those two. And so how do we fix that? How do we go, okay, if we need more than just this here, and there's got to be more granularity in this, but the idea that this is the only thing that they're obligated somehow, I don't understand what the reasoning is. Again, either it's woefully inadequate or it's not the whole budget, that they haven't published it all. And so either way, it's a process that the public is not fully engaged, and there's some type of idea that there's some ability, some legal right or ability that the city has to kind of withhold this, that they only have to give. And there's got to be, I get that there's got to be a structure and rules and regulations. Meetings can't just be a free-for-all where people just come in and say whatever they want, get whatever they want. And there's got to be some order to all of this. But that's a relationship.
Right.
You have your constituents and your people and your leaders have a relationship, and it shouldn't be, someone trying to get in and you put a face plant on them. I mean, that is not that's kind of what the relationship feels
right.
like, is this hostile. And that originated before the rendering plant. I mean, we got to this relationship a long time. The rendering plant is a symptom of the disease.
Yeah.
So.
We've said that for, many, many, many months now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, we're going to see this, like, when this kind of stuff happens, we need not be surprised at this point. We need to just go, well, that's why we're here having this conversation.
That's why we have to be alert, because it's happening. And then I'll switch to the next gear a little bit.
Well, hold on. Okay. Let's finish with this on the ARP money.
Okay.
Robert Hunter. So they're also doing the same with, so the ARP money, which we're talking about, the community has put in over 60 plus suggestions. 50 plus were for fully funding the free store for 5 years. Total cost being $125,000 out of the $24 million, and it seems the city is going to use all on pavement. Now I will say it's half the $11 million. And for what we understand, so they say infrastructure, and this speaks to the problem with there's no meat on the bone on the budget. It just says infrastructure, so you assume pavement of roads, which is infrastructure. I hope that a good chunk of that goes to fixing our water drainage sewage issues that cause East Gadsden to flood. But we don't know what you're going to do with that $11 million. But to your point, so there were a few nonprofits that were listed in there to get funds. The big kind of takeaway as I look at it is, what are the things that we're investing that money into that are going to provide a return on that investment, so that we can take that $24 million and turn it into more down the road in terms of, additional tax revenues. What are we doing to help people? Is that the best way? I don't know. I very, very clearly not qualified to answer those questions. But what was the process to have some of those discussions? And then how do we even know? And why were those nonprofits picked? Not that there's anything wrong with the ones that were, but right. To Robert's point, why some and not others? Is that is that the way we should do business? Again, those nonprofits, I'm not saying they're not good and they're not valid uses of funds. And maybe there's some limitation in terms of the rules that we can use to spend. I'll leave that for you guys to dig through, and I'll look for answers. But I don't even know what was the process to take input from anyone in the community. And I will say from what I've heard that the city could spend well over $100 million in infrastructure repairs, which, I think we could all agree. But, what was the mindset? Maybe give us some explanation on what that process is, at least. What is the adult? What is the line item? It's the adult health senior center. 4 something million.
4.5, I think. Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Yeah, I think it's Elliott Community Center. I think they're going to renovate that, and I just know that from. And
I say that in complete ignorance. I'm still learning what all's going around.
I think the city council. I think they said something like that there, and so the whole. And so if we felt as if the vision of the leaders matched, there was some trust there. These questions. There's not. There is a disconnect. So there's just a true lack of a meeting of the minds and an understanding of what's going. Not to say that anything's, wrong with the ones they chose, but I agree. Not having an understanding of what the mindset is, and knowing that there is such a disconnect. Those are all fair questions to ask, and we've got to get away, guys, from the idea that it's an insulting to ask questions or to go why, or to say, give me more information. It's not intended to be to be disrespectful. It is the relationship that is accountability, that is transparency, that is healthy. And so we've just gotten unhealthy, and it's just time to take our medicine. So
Danny Starnes, of course.
What's Danny saying? Dropping
the one-liner. Infrastructure might be spent on a beach house. All right. We're not going to go there. So that ARP budget supposedly would be
passed tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. The one-page document. Mm-hmm. And then we'll just hold our breath and wait and see what 11 million is in infrastructure and all that kind of stuff.
We may never know, Michael. That's the problem. I mean, the idea is that we'll hold our breath and see, will it ever fully be disclosed to us what it went for? I mean, if that's the best we got on the front end, are we truly going to get an accounting for it on the back end? Again, not saying that it's misspent or that it's wrong, or I'm just saying, are we going to receive that type of information ever? I don't think we are until we get people in there that change the relationship. And going, can I go?
Okay. I know you're itching. Let's.
Can I go? All right. So go along on those same lines. Let's talk about what the budget. They're going to introduce. Hopefully, not try to get suspend the rules, because I don't think that'll fly tomorrow, but, the proposed budget. And so for those of y'all who sort of follow this a little bit, I generally follow this every year, but not as in depth as I do. And I'm not questioning whether the budget's right or wrong. I'm not questioning whether anything it should be, but what I'm questioning is, this is the proposed budget they introduced last week. We had to request a copy from City Hall.
They're introducing it tomorrow.
Yeah,
did they do a reading?
They
Do
didn't do it.
they do it in executive session?
They talked
I
about
know they've
it.
had budget
That's right.
meetings.
That's right.
Most of the council members
That's right.
seem to have had budget meetings.
Miss Rosser got up and talked about it, though.
Right.
She did get up
Right.
and speak about it, but I don't think they formally introduced it. Yeah, I think
So
you're right.
formally, the first time this budget, and it's, it's been uploaded. You can get it on advancedetowah.com. You had to send a runner down, and this is the technology guy in me that gets frustrated at this. You had to send a runner down with a check to pay for a copy of this document, right?
Yeah, I mean, and
because I couldn't email it to you.
Well, yeah. I guess they could, but they wouldn't because they wanted to make sure they got their check for the cost, and I don't know.
How much was it? Do you remember?
Like $10. Like it wasn't much.
right,
Like it
all
was not much. And so
Donation button on Advanced.
So we went and got it. And so the question I asked too is it posted on a website? I mean, is it somewhere where no.
Not until after it's approved and done.
Oh no, that's a whole other story.
Oh yeah,
I'm getting there to
You're
that.
getting
Yeah,
there.
I'm
I
getting
know.
there to that. All right, and so
God, I want to steal your thunder so bad.
Oh, he does that all the time, y'all. So here we go. This is what I got here, and this is the proposed budget. It's about 40 pages long. Michael's got it uploaded. So the question I then asked to the city is, well, this is the budget for last year. So I look and I go, all right, this is 130 pages. This is 40 pages. Where's all of the rest? The answer I got back is, that's not prepared until after the budget is approved. After the 40-page summary is approved, this is what I was told, and that after the council approves the 40, that's when the 130 pages is done. So my question was, so are you telling me that the council doesn't approve the budget? They approve 40 pages of a 130-page overall budget. You're telling me that the actual budget, the 130 pages, is not actually what they have their hands on and they approve at the council meeting. I did not know this. The answer I got back, to my understanding, I hope I'm wrong. Tomorrow maybe I'll find out I'm wrong. I hope I am. Is that this document is not approved till after this budget is adopted, which the public should have the whole budget. The council should have the whole budget.
It's the citizens of the
It's
City
their
of Gadsden budget. It's not
Exactly.
the city council's budget. It's not
Well, but the council
Lisa
should,
Rosser's budget.
Right, but the council should have, they should be approving the budget, not a summary of it. And so, and I don't, the idea that, again, there's only a part, even the council doesn't get the whole thing until it's over.
Right.
And is, again, we've got to fix that. We can't expect to get results as a community and to reach the potential we can reach with processes like that in place. So
let's peel that back a little bit so we can put a little detail in terms of really what's the concern, because I can see people, well, okay, well, it's an allocation to the different departments or anything like that. The concern there is that there's some general terms that are used that, back to the discussion about infrastructure, spell out. And I think most of the departments probably have, some concept of in place of what they're going to spend the money on. And I see some comments about, we should see, an itemized budget. I mean, that doesn't seem like that should be all that difficult.
Right. And
I know it's a lot of, don't take me wrong. It's a lot of work to do all of this. My mother's an accountant. Okay. And I know, money's a stick. I mean, you gotta, it's a lot of work, but
and I'm not saying anything's,
it's a $52 million budget,
something like that. And I'm not saying anything's wrong. I'm not even, the point is that how are we supposed to be
right.
knowledgeable? How is the council even supposed to be knowledgeable when we are operating under this presumption that you'll get it after it's already
Right.
done and over with. And so, and I point this out because I'm a little surprised at how deep this has gone. This idea that the rendering plant it originated with this, the idea that we'll tell you about it when it's already over, how deep that this goes. And it even goes to the idea of the budget that's approved every year, the process that they literally have in place for that. It is the same one. So why are we surprised when the council looks at us like we have three heads when we act like this is a bad idea? It's so ingrained, it's so systemic that it reaches even levels that I was unaware it reached.
So Jerry Cook asked one of your favorite questions.
Jerry Cook asked,
"Is that legal?"
So I will forbear on my opinion on that. I didn't bring my Alabama code in here, but I have the Alabama code open to that exact code section, Jerry. I'll go in the comments and I will give you that code section that deals with how the budgeting process is followed. You might want to look at the Alabama League of Municipalities. They have a budget adoption process that the league that tells the cities how to do that. And so I invite you to go on to the league. I will post the site to the Alabama code section that deals with how budgets are supposed to be adopted. The way I read the code section is the council adopts the budget, not a proposed budget, not a summary of a budget, not a piece of a budget, not 40 pages of 130. They adopt the budget. And so, so that's definitely a concern.
And I mean, this whole, since the rendering plant, all of this kind of stuff, there's been lots of people that have put in lots of hours into digging through that very question about a lot of different stuff. And it's not just a bunch of people ranting and raving. This is wrong. Like, no, actually it appears that it's illegal. Or doesn't really comply or meet the intent, or I hope everybody understands that this is not, we're just not making stuff up, sitting here griping. We're actually, there's a lot of research that has been done.
On Monday night at 7 o'clock. You know, and I think we're preaching to the choir here a little bit because, but we are, we're all deeply concerned. And we should be deeply concerned, and we've got to fix this. I mean, because we love our home, and we're better than this. Even people, those who haven't been paying attention. Michael's laughing at something. I'm going to have to get the answer from something. But I think
Janice it went from vasectomy to castrated. Y'all go find that comment. I'm not going to bring it up on the screen. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I lost my train of thought, but I mean, I think my point is that we I'm sure there are even people who are like, I'm surprised we were even at the point that we are. I think we all are, but we've got to do better. And this group is aware of that now. I think that the onion keeps getting peeled back more and more, and we realize, how much work we have to do. But to me, I think the great is that there's so much low hanging fruit here. Mm-hmm. I mean, it won't, if we can just realize where we are, realize we don't want to be here anymore, and then move on to what the next. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we can see a lot happen and our county improve in a lot of ways fast.
And, I'm going to bring up, so Pam Dawson said, this is what happens when you basically only have 3 mayors in 50 years. I think that's part of all of this. And then Danny Starnes brought up, he said, I respect Thomas Worthy. Of all the council people, he seemed to be on the side of Pilgrim's Pride in the beginning until he listened to the people in his district. This is not rocket science. This is not hard. And that's the frustration for a lot of people that, there was a lot of animosity in the beginning in the way Jason handled this, the way Thomas handled this, the way Johnny Cannon handled this, and we've worked through those. I think we've had a mature community that has gone, okay, they listened, They changed their mind, or they got, more educated. They talked with people, and now they're coming out going, yeah, it's clearly, this makes sense for what the people want. That's the way this is supposed to work. We're not trying to burn people at the stake right off the bat, and we'll see. But ultimately, if people aren't willing to listen to us, then they need to go on somewhere else, because it's our government, our community.
And if you remember, Jason Wilson at first, didn't believe the process was as broken as it was, and he kept defending it. But then as he came to see, and he was like, you're right. I mean, he, at one of the meetings, he even went on and goes, I was wrong. That is not how it worked. I said that was not how it worked. He listened, and so Thomas and him both, Johnny has too. I mean, I think they've all, worked in order to educate themselves. But are we a little gun shy? Yeah. I mean, I think we are all a little bit gun shy. When these things keep coming up over and over, we're to the point where we question first. This community won't always be that way, but we've got to build some trust.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that there will be,
Now, there have been a lot of people that have not been trusting for a long time, to be fair.
That's true.
To all of us that are kind of late to this show, there have been a lot of people out there screaming. Folks like Carolyn Parker and Fred Zachary come to my mind.
Right.
And I can get their frustration. And even Jason, to a certain extent, he's known there were issues, which is why he got involved to begin with. And he just didn't quite realize just how bad it was.
Well, they were kind of the lone wolves out there trying to fight. And I think all of them got so frustrated. And, we start getting involved. They're like, where have you been? We've been doing this.
Well, we're here now. We're here now. We're having chats on Monday nights. Pam Dawson said this video contains at least 10 planks of, let's see, a willing a platform for a mayoral candidate. I concur. So let's segue into, let's talk about elections. We've been beating that drum. We had some fun discussions about how do you run. The plans and ideas for Advance Etowah, one of the reasons that we haven't done a bunch of live is we've been sitting around kind of trying to strategize and figure out, certainly we didn't really know what we were doing when all this got started. We've been solely focused on the rendering plant. That now seems to hit a sad stride of indefinitency.
Is that a word?
I made it a word. It's a word now. But the frustrating thing is it could end tomorrow. There's still people in this community that could make all of the rendering plant stuff go away.
Don't say that.
But what I'm going to say, so we're having the discussions, and we've been talking about this for months, but we're now looking at basically accepting that this concept that we're doing with Advanced Etowah is really, we're looking at a 5-year plan, a 5-year process of keeping this going. Because even if it did end, the rendering plant ended today, like we've said, it's a symptom.
Right.
It's not the problem. We have lots of problems. And part of the reason we have lots of problems is that we have a broken system. And so we are figuring, we're going to talk more about that in the weeks ahead. But certainly part of that, a big piece of that is the political side of things. So, what we're narrowing down to, as you talk about planks and platforms, and I talked about it early. And I know Lance Corey brought it up in comments, and I'm sure plenty of others have. We as a community need to say these are the things that we care about, and then force politicians to answer those questions. Put it bluntly. If somebody wants to cry, you're being bullies. No, we're being citizens. It is fair. What we on Advance Etowah side of things is maybe this is, I don't know, something I've certainly heard in the military. We don't want to tell you how to suck the egg. We just want to tell you which eggs to suck. And so we're going to go through a process of trying to figure out what are some of the core issues that we've got, building out those platforms. We're really going to be focused because the whole kind of concept of what has come out of Advanced Etowah is really focusing on those processes, those structural things that occur that unless you fix those, it doesn't matter what goes on the budget. If we can't pass a budget in an appropriate way, especially if we're not meeting the compliance with state law and state code, those things got to get fixed, regardless of whether we give money to building infrastructure, we give money to supporting nonprofits. We're so broken to the core that we've got to fix those concepts of you can't bring the budget up and then suspend the rules and pass a $24 million budget. You can't bring a budget out for $52 million or whatever for all the tax revenue that doesn't actually have all of the details. A city council should not do that. That is not the way, and I don't care really what the rules say. If that is legal that they can do that, well, that shouldn't be. That's the common sense. I'm not playing lawyer. I'm not playing politician. Mm-hmm. There is no business owner out there that is going to say, yeah, that seems like a really good way for me to run my $50 million business, is that the senior management doesn't actually get to see exactly kind of what the plans are. So those are going to be a lot of the issues that we're going to talk through, and hopefully, hopefully we can get some of those things turned around in the next 5 years. It is quite frankly going to take new people, new ideas,
and hard work.
And hard work.
It's going to take hard work.
Oh man, I tell you, I do not envy the next mayor of Gadsden. From all the discussions of the people retiring, all of these issues that have come to light, the massive distrust that seems to be now very prevalent. I know it's always kind of been there, and it's kind of everybody's muttered now. It's really out there. There's a lot of distrust. We got a lot of issues in this community. We've had steady decline. We've got a lot of stuff that gets fixed. We've got very structures of government like the IDA that doesn't make any sense. For no, at best there's no transparency. At worst, it's
dysfunctional.
Absolutely dysfunctional. Mm-hmm. We've got all the same people on all the boards. I mean, all that stuff has got to get repaired before you can ever really have any meaningful next step, in my opinion. And I think that's kind of the concurrence of most of the board for Advanced Etowah. And that's the kind of stuff we're going to be talking through forward. But what we really need is the citizens of the community to engage and talk about, okay, so we get that fixed. What do we need to prioritize? What do we want out of the airport? Is everybody going to complain if we had 1,000 planes a day, or let's back that up, 150 planes a day coming in and landing over the community? Those are conversations. Noise from jets is a real thing, particularly busy airports. I've dealt with it, noise complaints and all that kind of stuff. Those are discussions that we need to have in a community. Do we want to grow that? What can we do with it? What kind of stuff do we want in that area? What kind of, a cult, do we want to be the chicken capital of America? If we do as a community, and from Advanced Etowah's standpoint, we're not trying to say this is, that's for the citizens to decide. All we're trying to do is make sure, number one, this next election cycle needs to be really focused fairly narrowly on getting people in that understand the simple processes, understand the concepts. Like, we want to have discussions that aren't met with hostility.
That's right. And you've got two different arms of it. You've got the platform, which Advanced Etowah has emerged into being this platform of communication and information sharing. So you've got this arm of it. And then you also have this sort of, okay, now how do we link this communication platform and what the people and what their vision is to what the leaders and the process in order to achieve that? And how do we instill accountability in that? Is are the processes in place to to carry out and to listen to what the people are saying, to create the kind of community that we want to be, and are they being held accountable for doing that? What the details are of what that is, or what the goal is, what the people would decide.
Right.
Advanced Etowah is a mechanism to help accomplish that and to make the processes in place so that can happen, and then follow up with questions. Did it work? Has that been done? Where are we on that? And so it's not necessarily to decide who does it or what is done. It's to facilitate the communication in order to make that happen, create this, which has already got this amazing platform in order to link all those things up, because we have amazing people here who have amazing ideas, and it's time that we, sat down and everyone is engaged, but to get engaged with what are the processes that have to be fixed in order to get there, and to, quite frankly, put people in leadership positions who will do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm already seeing tons of great ideas, tons of opinions on how we can fix and change things. And that's what we need. Quite honestly, and I've said it before, all that has occurred and all that's been accomplished and all the hard work these past 10 months and the coming 12, it will mean nothing if the citizens of the community don't get more involved. And I'm saying that to myself. I'm not saying that to anyone else. I'm saying that to myself. You can't expect, a community does not run itself. And when you just leave it and assume, you get what we have. Now, is everybody going to be as engaged as Christie has been, or as engaged as Fred Zachary has been? No, that's not. And that's part of what we're going to try to do, and what I'm going to try to do with the platform, with the website, and it needs to be easier to figure out what the heck is going on. And that's part of that transparency thing.
Because nobody's ever
right,
tried to make it that.
right.
It's been
designed
to be challenging for the community to engage. We've got to change that, and now it's amazing that a lot of wonder. As challenging as the rendering plant issue has been, the hope is that a lot of good can come out of this, because now there's Advanced Etowah that can sort of usher in a rendering plant that goes away, but also achieve a lot of the things that the potential is clearly there for us to do.
And Robert Hunter said it would be great if the HRC, the subcommittee for citizen input, would actually meet. So to that point, and that's what we're not trying to do with Advanced Etowah, and I'm sure we're going to get all sorts of fun accusations, and we've already had, I think we've had accusations of Advanced Etowah being a slush fund for David Chadwick, and we're going to have
trying to overthrow the
we're going to have a lot more fun with that. But
Rainbow City's trying to take over Gadsden.
Right.
We've heard all kinds of
Robert brings up a phenomenal point. The system should already be in place that it runs itself, right? The citizen involvement. We have the boards that should have, qualified individuals that are appropriately appointed, and all of those things. There's some broken pieces, but mostly it should work. There are groups, that are already set up to have some of these conversations. And so our hope is that we can get back to where, what we're doing can end.
Be obsolete.
Yes, be obsolete because it, and I'll tell you, I don't have any blind thought that it's going to be, a utopia. That's not going to happen, right? If we want to talk about how to build a community where everybody, behaves properly, we need to jump in the Bible, and we can get to church and have that discussion. Where people are involved, it's going to be broken. It's not going to be perfect. But that's to your point earlier about the low hanging fruit. We have some stuff that's just so broken that we can fix some of that and get the ship steered in the right direction. And I'm excited. I'm really pretty pumped to see the engagement, the discussions. I want to see new names get on ballots. I want to see new faces, new fresh ideas. It's fun for me. I don't know if maybe it's the strategic planner in me, from the military and looking at all this kind of stuff. But we've got a lot of good discussion. But yeah, it's going to be hard work. And I go back to, I'm kind of glad I can't run for mayor of Gadsden, because that is not a job that I would want.
Just imagine if all the hard work that has been put into fighting a rendering plant was put into some of this low hanging fruit.
Oh yeah,
what we could have. So as much as I enjoy what I do for a living and enjoy being part of this very important fight and all that's involved with that, it would be great to spend those types of resources and time and energy in the low hanging fruit and to improving what we have here. So, hopefully, we will keep this rendering fight I'm afraid is not going to go away for a while. So we'll continue to be doing that, and I'll keep everybody sort of updated and up to speed from that legal fight. Y'all can always, people private message me all the time and ask me questions, and I get to them, and I always try to answer anything that I can do in order to do all of that. But I'm excited about what I see the group at Advanced Etowah doing, and that team really coming together, and this group kind of already, before Michael and the group at Advanced Etowah, David and all of them talk about it. Oh, you're already there. You look at the Facebook page and the questions that are being asked and where this group is going. I think that it's clear this group is ready to take some action on some of these systemic problems.
Yeah. I'm ready. I'll do it for 5 years. Hey, if we can get to a point where everybody's like, maybe the first election. A lot of this really isn't that hard. Back to this whole rendering plant thing. Ain't hard to make it go away. It ain't hard to make it go away. It could go away, tomorrow. But it is what it is. So we commit to endure.
We persevere.
I'm not I'm not going to pack up and move to the beach anytime soon. Sorry, no
comment. I didn't say
no comment there. Mm-hmm. But guys, I see a lot of great comments, a lot of good stuff in there. Ideas about the airport, ideas about the IDA. Most of them very, very accurate. Lots of great potential that we have. Looking forward to conversations ahead. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to kind of do in the next couple of weeks. We've got some stuff that we've got to sort out, and only so many hours in the day. But I'm looking forward to some conversations, talking with these candidates as they come out and come and have a discussion with us. Because there's a lot to talk about in our community. This is, coming out of COVID, coming out of the decades of decline, coming out of Goodyear going away, coming out of the legal expenses now that have been piled up on the city, all of that kind of stuff. We got a lot of stuff.
This is how we've always done it. Isn't good enough anymore.
Oh man,
it's just not good enough anymore.
Nothing makes me angrier than somebody saying, "Well, that's the way we've always done it." Well, that's what Toys R Us said, as Amazon was coming along, and guess who's not in business anymore? That's the most absurd, ridiculous concept. If you're not always changing, because the only constant is that everything is always changing. This is the way we've always done it. We could save money. You don't need the $10 for a printout of the budget. It doesn't cost you anything to email it. Well, technically it does, because you got to pay for the the email. But
you don't get to say anymore, oh, well, I don't want to talk about it on social media. I don't want to talk about it out there. You just don't get to say that anymore. The idea that it is somehow, not an important part of anybody who wants to dialogue with people in a way that they understand. You don't just get to say, oh yeah, that's a whole forum that I am not going to communicate with, and that it's somehow an illegitimate forum in some way because of what it is. I mean, that argument is just absurd, and not to say that there's not problems with social media and there's not issues, but it is the way that people communicate ideas. And if you can find a better way to get your ideas out and people have an opportunity and a platform to ask questions, and they have an opportunity in order to engage with you in some other way, great. But I don't know what that is at this point in time. You can only knock on so many doors and shake so many hands.
And you really shouldn't knock on too many doors and shake too many hands with the pandemic going on. But exactly. That's a whole other discussion. Last question, because I think it's a good one, and then we'll wrap it up and get out of here. David Stanley said, after the election, can the new council and mayor replace the board members immediately, or do they have to wait for terms to expire?
They have to. It is the existing boards in their current places. There are board terms that would have to expire unless people were to resign from those positions. That's not to say that there can't be some type of a alternative restructuring of some of these right. boards. And I'd love the opportunity, from a legal point of view, whoever, is running for mayor and thinking about those kind of things needs to be looking at those options and creative ways in order to not have to wait for terms to be out. There are ways you can do that.
I mean, for example, the IDA, they could just not pay. They could stop. They have a contract with a private company, is the way the IDA is structured. They could simply not pay that private company, and then they would be a moot point. And I don't know if they have a contract that details, but basically they could repeal or remove the ability for them to conduct business in the name of Gadsden.
They could, and the county has a statutory IDA. You could form a statutory. I mean, the current IDA is not even a statutory. It's as we all know, it's a private, profit, non-transparent thing. You would just stop paying them, and they don't have any money in order to continue on. That's how that would go. That's not to say that you wouldn't want an IDA. The point is, you could restructure it into a different format in order to accomplish that. So those are the types of creative ways, and all these problems can be solved.
The mayor could dissolve the airport authority.
The mayor could dissolve the airport authority.
Right, so they could go through the process to restructure all of that.
There's multiple ways you can do that. You could restructure that. It used to be a department of the city before they created the IDA in order to issue bonds, in order to borrow money on behalf of the city. There's all types of things that you could look at and you could do in order to decide, is it worth waiting these terms out because these people, this not, or is there another way in order to restructure all of this? These are things that whoever the new mayor and council is would need to work together, get an attorney, and creatively discuss some ways in order to resolve these problems as quickly as they can.
Yep. So hopefully that gives you some answers that aren't answers. But I think that,
we give answers that aren't answers.
The bottom line is we don't necessarily have to wait out, people that were, newly appointed to the airport authority. There's ways that a lot of that stuff can be fixed, fairly quickly. And we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, over the months to come.
There could be ways to engage with the legislative delegation to the extent that some of these boards are created by state law as well too, in order to ways to fix and change that. So there's all types of again, it's not rocket science. It's not. I think that with the right people who were correctly communicating with the constituents and have a common vision, there's a lot that can be done.
Yep.
With a good lawyer.
Hater,
I'm not
you
volunteering for that position.
You want the city attorney
I'm just
job?
plugging the whole legal profession.
You want to take a step down?
No way. I would. I'll leave that to somebody else.
All right. Well, guys, y'all have a wonderful rest of your Monday evening. Have a great week in all that you're doing. Nice to see the temperature. It's kind of shifting. Kind of fun to get out and do some football and soccer and all those fun things. Is there
stuff to do outside?
There is stuff to do outside of here. So you just got to break away and find a way to enjoy this beautiful community that we do have in the beautiful area that we live, and hopefully not let all of this weigh you down too much. But it's certainly becoming pretty taxing. But guys, thank you all so much. Keep up with digging through everything, and we will bring you more information and more updates, and hopefully some fun discussions. But yeah, 5 years. I think we can get it done. So
exciting.
Yeah. Y'all have a good evening. We'll talk to y'all later.
Thank you, everybody.